All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Beautiful Tuesday morning. Thank you for tuning in. Robin, I want to go back in time with you a little bit.
Okay.
I want to go back in 2 times, okay? I want to go back about a year ago, and I also want to go back about 30 years ago.
Okay.
I'm not really sure how far back the other one is. But here's what I want to do. Remember last year? Last year we went around, for those who don't know, Robin and I went around the state, actually, to different state parks, painting pictures, so that we could help raise money for the Literacy Council. And in doing so, we kind of discovered the state that we've lived in. We both moved here in 1972, obviously from 2 different families, but I think you were 71, actually, right?
That's right.
71. But the point is that we've been here a long time, and we've been in Marion County that whole time. The exploration last year of the state was eye-opening because I guess I was one of those people that just didn't go out a whole lot, which is probably still the case. But anyway, one of the things that happened is we drove through a town, and I wish I could remember the name of the town, but it was somewhere near Naples, I guess, because that's where we were heading that day. And I said to you, this looks like the way Ocala used to look, and it was a little dilapidated. And I'm not picking on Ocala, but I remember back in that time, then that's the 30 years ago part of this, and I might be wrong about the time frame, but the downtown area kind of needed a lot of help. Well, it's got the help. We have made a comeback like I've never seen before, and I guess I wouldn't have seen it because it takes time for these things. And now we're seeing some more revitalization going on downtown. I cannot tell you that my hopes for that little town was that, I hope you guys pick it up because, it's quaint. To look like, the old Six-Gun Territory or something. It's kind of quaint. But at the same time, I would imagine the people who live there go elsewhere to do shopping. And right now you go downtown, and not just during the Christmas season. Remember, and that was another thing, once the downtown area of Ocala started to pick up, the only time it was really buzzing was around the holidays. Now it buzzes all the time. And couldn't be happy with that, what's happening down there. Melanie Gaboardi is in the studio, as is Marc Mondell. Melanie is the Senior Manager of Economic Development of Revitalization for the City of Ocala. And Marc is the Executive Director of Municipal Development for the City of Ocala. And the phone lines are open. They have told me they would like phone calls. So if you have questions, even if it's something other than what Robin and I bring to the show, feel free to call in and ask the questions. So let me turn around. I feel like I'm being rude with my back to you, but I needed my notes. I can't do all that from memory. And if you're watching online, I see a few numbers on there, so thank you for doing that. Melanie and Marc, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I mean, how far back do you both go? You don't go back 30 years, do you?
Well, Melanie's only 21.
A myth we'd like to continue. Yes.
But do either of you remember when it was kind of blighted, I guess you would say? Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that was whoever did whatever they did, we thank them. Because I think it's a wonderful change, and it's been a long time coming. And now we see these new things happening with that. Is it called a linear park?
Yes.
Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction. Is that what we're talking about today?
That's part of it. Downtown redevelopment is an area that we have responsibility for. We also do economic development citywide, so business park development, company recruitment, really the whole gamut of the development side of the shop we're involved in.
And so it's just city, not county?
Just city.
Just city. Does that include Tuscaloosa Park?
Absolutely.
And what's in the works for that? What's planning? I mean, it sounds like you got some good things in the works.
Right. We do. Many of our projects are long-term. Tuscaloosa Park is one of those. We think Tuscaloosa Park is sort of a jewel that really has not been fully uncovered yet. While it certainly serves the citizens currently, we believe that long term it will be a source of generating regional interest. And so we hope to invest more funds in the park, to upgrade the facilities, to attract regional events, special events. And so when you think about things like Light Up Ocala and all the activity that generates, we're hoping to do that much more frequently, and some of that will occur in Tuscaloosa Park.
Now, and last season for Light Up Ocala, you expanded that to go past the boulevard. You closed the boulevard in that little section, and it was wonderful, walking around and discovering some of the things that just wouldn't have fit otherwise.
That's right. And in fact, we did that as sort of a prelude to another project we're working on, which is The city parking lot just north of the boulevard, if you recall last year, we had some event activity there.
Yes.
We're getting ready to do a major redesign of that parking lot. Right now, it's got about 80 spaces, parking spaces, and we're going to try to do a design that will incorporate, through closing some of the, making some of the two-lane streets that are north and south one way, expanding the boundaries. We'll add another 100 parking spaces to that and more green space. So that will become our third special event venue space downtown.
Oh.
All right. Now, is since you do strategies, Melanie, is the strategy, is it guesswork, or do you look at other cities? How do you figure, how do you know what strategies
I wish
will
it were
work?
that easy.
Well, and obviously it isn't. So help us understand, how do you come up with a strategy? Is there a way to kind of look elsewhere and say, well, didn't work for them?
Well, one of the things that we do, of course, is follow council's guidance. But we do several surveys. We do some studies. We look at what the community enjoys doing. We look at what works and what doesn't work. We bring ideas from other communities. Marc is a member and former president of the Florida Redevelopment Association. And a lot of the ideas come through that venue.
Oh, wow. So that's a statewide organization?
Yeah. So.
And so that little town, whatever it was, near Naples, they're part of it. And they might start tapping into it as well. Does it require money that we don't have? Does it require money that we need to have an extra tax for? I know nobody likes that subject, but is that part of the strategy or the need?
We do not like to increase taxes.
You don't like taxes? I don't blame you. No.
You know, we're citizens too.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So we look at all of the funding sources. We look for grant money. We look for matching funds.
Right.
We look at what's available. And sometimes we shift things around depending on the need. You know, we may have planned something down in the downtown area and then realized, that really doesn't fit what we're doing right now.
Right.
And we'd get a better benefit if we shifted those funds elsewhere. We work with all of the departments within the city. Water and sewer, electric, look at their projects. We work as a team to figure out what's going to be the best for the community.
And we have been promoting the new idea that you have come up with for soliciting vendors for the parks within the city and everything, and the county that, say, like Tuscaloosa Park. They've been asking for vendors, for ideas, to see if they want to have a vendor there for sunscreen or bug spray or, cold drinks, things like that. So that should probably flow over into Tuscaloosa Park as well.
You're probably speaking of an initiative that our Recreation and Parks Department may be working on.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. I mean, that is their central mission. In fact, they're fond of saying it all starts in the parks. So
yeah,
I'm sure that would impact Tuscaloosa.
We love the parks.
For the listeners, this is an excellent time to call in if you would like to comment on something or ask a question of Marc or Melanie. They are both here from the city of Ocala, obviously, and they're here to represent some of the changes that we are seeing and maybe even take some suggestions on changes. The number is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline 622-9622, as it always is. So I have a quick question about Tuscaloosa, and I guess we'll move to another park. There was an article about the water level in the lake dropping, and we wondered if maybe that's not a bad thing. In other words, maybe that'll open up some space. Maybe we could kind of restructure and have more area for something else. Is there anything along those lines that's happening?
Unfortunately, that's not an area that is something that we directly are involved in. We're more on the long-term planning, the development side. My understanding is the water levels in Tuscaloosa Park are something that actually fluctuates to some extent annually. I'm not sure I can answer exactly why, but we don't currently have any plans to reconfigure or reshape the boundaries of the water areas. We are looking at the land, though, and thinking about what other passive and active amenities can we bring into the park, like an amphitheater space. Or you're aware, for example, that the Ocala Symphony is looking at the redevelopment of the old auditorium, so it's those types of things.
Yeah, for what it's worth, we were in favor of that. It sounded like a good idea. Matthew Wardell has been in the studio many times and just love what he does, and obviously it would be nice to have a home for them, so there's nothing, in our opinion, that we're opposed to with that. When a business decides that they are interested in an area, Like, let's say I own a chain of hotels, and I say I want to put a hotel downtown. Would I have to pass some kind of a test before you would say, yeah, that's okay? Because I've heard people say, you know what we need? We needed a hotel downtown. I was like, well, that would be up to the businesses that think it would be profitable. But then again, you guys would have to say yes or no to that, wouldn't you?
Well, there are, of course, codes, not only local city codes, but statewide codes that any development, regardless of the type or location, would have to follow. So it has to meet the Florida Building Code, has to go through the site plan development process, has to meet zoning requirements. But let's assume that it meets all of those things. The next question would be, for example, let's say the hotel specifically downtown. We don't have a hotel that's directly downtown anymore. We did many years ago. And part of that is because of what you talked about earlier, that a lot of the businesses and a lot of the commerce and activity moved from downtown out elsewhere. When I-75 was built and 200 was built, that got sucked out of the downtown. Well, you see downtowns, a resurgence in downtowns across the country, and part of the reason is because downtowns become these niche locations where there's specialty retail services and there's entertainment. And so when you get a critical mass of those type of things, the notion of having a hotel all of a sudden starts to become economical again. So someone in the private sector might think, I can make a profit by bringing a hotel.
Right.
The challenge is until your downtown gets to that point, if you want a hotel, you may look as a government, and you think it makes sense, you may look at the potential for providing some type of subsidy or some financial assistance. And the city right now is actually doing that. We're working with a local development group. They're exploring the possibility of bringing a hotel downtown. We have not negotiated any specific incentives, but we're in a 6-month period to figure out, can it work, and if so, how?
Okay. All right. So if it's feasible, then a business person would say, this is something I want to do, and this is a place I want to put it, right?
Yeah.
Any insight as what's going to happen in the spot where the old Chamber of Commerce used to be?
That is the subject location.
Oh, that's where it could be.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And would the bottom floor be retail businesses? Like when you go to New York City, for example, a lot of times everything above the bottom floor is residences. The bottom floor is retail. Would we have something like that?
The developer's working on that mix. They call it a program to figure out how many rooms for the hotel you might have versus, restaurant space versus retail space, office, whatever the uses are. It's really the private sector that looks at the market to try to determine what is the right mix.
Yeah,
right?
Usually,
what are they willing to invest their money in?
Right.
So I can't tell you right now what that mix will be, but they're supposed to come back here within 6 months and tell us what they think.
Is what you do, does that also affect the already existing shopping centers, like where Albertsons used to be on 25th Avenue and the Boulevard, since it's empty right now?
It can. That is something that we have to think about. Does the type of things we're trying to achieve, or the types of things the private sector is looking for financial assistance on,
right,
will that have a negative impact? And sometimes the answer is yes. In this case, a hotel downtown, I'm not sure that would negatively impact the former Albertsons location. I will tell you what we are trying to do to try to positively impact that is we're working towards creating what are called community redevelopment areas.
Oh.
That is a special designation granted by the state that cities can pursue. And what that does is it allows the local government to take the tax revenue the normal tax revenue. It's not increasing taxes. It just takes the tax revenue collected in a certain area and allows them to refocus it back into that area to encourage redevelopment. And you can use it for all kinds of things. So it could be used to attract another tenant for that shopping center, or to subdivide that space into smaller tenants.
Right.
That's something we're working on for the future.
In creating strategy, just going back to what your title implies, Melanie, we often focus, as in radio here, we focus on the things that we think everybody else is focusing on. So let me try to remember the people who don't get paid attention to. A lot of times you'll hear calls about the west side of Ocala and how we're neglecting that part of our city. There was an article, there was some information about a shopping center going up. And again, that's a private business. And so if a shopping center feels like it'll survive and thrive, that's when it usually goes up. Does the city have anything to do with any of that? And are there things in the plans that would make them not feeling so left out? You know what I mean?
There are various things that we're doing right now. The project that you're talking about specifically, M2PCD is a private entity. They were formed by the Florida Black Farmers Market Association.
Oh, okay.
They're local. The individuals that are interested in that area have requested that the city provide land for them. We do own the parcel, the main parcel that they're talking about, which is currently the West Ocala PD, the police department site.
Okay.
That's their substation.
Is that the one right on...
It's right on 40.
40? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yes. That location, they are working with various professionals to design a shopping center, which would include a grocery store. It has been identified that there's not easily available fresh food for that community. They do not have a grocery store in that area. We had worked with a company to have an analysis done, a feasibility study for actually putting a grocery store in the West Ocala area. It indicated that that is an area that has been designated as a food desert.
Really?
Yes, because of the distance that the residents would have to travel in order to get fresh food. So we are working with them. They meet with us on a somewhat regular basis. The idea is that the city would contribute the value of the land after certain things happen. So there is a return to the city to have that area revitalized, to have a grocery store. It's a great community benefit. Several things could go into that shopping center. Other services could be provided. So it's going to be a really nice location, for those types of activities. And we're very encouraged by that group's interest in doing this privately. So it would be a public-private partnership.
So it sounds like you have an open communication, though, with the community as far as what is actually being requested. Maybe sometimes they are barking up the wrong tree. Maybe that's more of a question for the state or maybe the Chamber of Commerce. But still, it sounds like there's an open door communication going on.
There are lots of opportunities for us to engage with them. And we do the best that we can with any group to help meet the needs that the city is capable of meeting. There are some things that we just cannot do because we're using public funds. But,
right.
Yeah, we look at the ways that we can match things up and help with, acquiring grants or matching funds or those kinds of things. The other thing on the west side of Ocala is that we have identified the city's enterprise zone, which is a state program.
Right.
Provides incentives to not just large corporations, but small mom and pop organizations. They're not based on a large number of employees. A lot of the state and federal programs require that these businesses are in a certain classification. They have to be high tech or, some large manufacturing type of organization. But with the enterprise zone, that's not the case. They allow benefits to be provided to any type of business.
And is our role in that as the media, not just radio, but radio, newspaper, those of us whose job it is to get the word out?
Right.
Are we doing you well? In other words, are we doing our part as far as, because if there are people out there who could benefit from that information and they're not getting it, then we're not. Then we're not doing our job.
Well, we need more communication. There are not enough people that are taking advantage of the program. A lot of people don't know. We sent a mailing out when we first instituted the program, and unfortunately, we only had 7 businesses show up.
Oh my gosh!
It's not a good thing when we can't.
Really?
Yeah, when we can't connect.
I wonder how many businesses are struggling right now that would benefit just from relocating. Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The phone lines are open, by the way. I want to make sure that you know that we are inviting your phone calls. Melanie Gaboardi and Marc Mondell are in the studio right now. The number, as you all know, probably is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-9622. We're talking about Ocala, and we're talking about the future of Ocala and the progress that's been made in revitalizing it, and that's Marc and Melanie's job. Let's take a phone call. Hopefully you'll be able to hear over there. Got the phones lit up now. Good morning. You're on the air with Marc and Melanie.
Good morning. I wondered if it was possible to use that parking garage, I don't know if this falls under your umbrella or not, during downtown events and, say, station a guard or an off-duty policeman or something there and collect $1 each, and then I would pay $1 to have covered parking with a security of somebody standing at the gate, because parking has always been a problem downtown for big events.
Yeah.
And to utilize that building and if everybody pay $1, and that would pay the guy's wage possibly for giving a bit of security.
You mean the parking at the courthouse, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The covered parking garage.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about. Now I'll hang up and listen to your answer.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
What do you think? You think we'll have $1? That sounds like a good idea, actually, doesn't it?
It does. I think it's a possibility. We have not explored it with the county. Of course, the county owns and operates the garage. We do, at the city, try to control for special events certain surface lots. And it's a balance for us between charging and making them available for free so that the public does have that benefit. But as we work towards having more events, for example, we're getting ready to do a fall concert series and a spring concert series every year where we'll have 4 to 6 well-known entertainers come downtown, and they'll use our Citizen Circle, for example, as one of the venues. Right. Parking is an increasing it's an issue that we have to really focus on. So that's a good suggestion. We'll follow up with our county partners to see if there's any interest.
All right, let's go to another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air. Are you there? I guess they left. I don't hear anybody. If you would like to call, the number is open now. I just closed it. Opened it, rather. The phone number is 622-9622. Yeah, and that comes up more, I guess, than it used to. It used to be pretty much for Light of Ocala. That was one day a year where we needed more parking. But now it seems more frequent that people are going down for different things, or just to be downtown. There's something about going downtown. And you know what? When I do this, I realize that I'm focusing on that little microscopic part of this big city. You know, there's so many other parts, too. You guys have your hands full, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You know, to come back to the garage for just 1 second, you know, a parking garage is a very expensive venture. You're probably talking, depending on the nature of the garage, whether you really dress it up and make it look like a building or you want it to look like a standard garage, you're somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $25,000 per space. Okay, so not only is there a large capital upfront cost, but there's a lot of operating costs associated with garages. So we have to be very careful on the timing of that. It's sort of a little bit of a chicken and the egg. There's one argument that says build a garage now, and that gives you the extra capacity, you'll attract more development. But if you can't pay for it, that's a problem. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, I mentioned the parking lot north of the boulevard.
Yes.
We're trying to do some improvements where we're increasing the number of surface spaces, either in a lot or on street. And as development comes in, especially if we're able to get, let's say, this hotel catalytic project, that will start to drive a stronger demand for a garage, and may also provide an additional revenue source. So it's a timing issue.
Is there any percentage of the funds that the city receives when a business comes in town and then they pay for whatever fees they have to pay for to generate maybe 1% of that percentage back into what you want to do for the community?
Melanie, why don't you talk about how we generate our dollars for economic development?
Is it an impact fee? Something like that?
Our dollars are generated by assisting a business in improving the property, which would increase the value of that property. So we get our benefit through taxes.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so
we don't have a dedicated. It's not like every dollar you pay in electric utility revenue or building development fees goes into a pot for economic development. As Melanie's describing, all of the dollars that come into the city, utility revenues, taxes, eventually essentially go into general fund. Okay, I mean, some of those utility fees have to go into the utility departments because they have to pay for their cost, right? But the dollars that come into the general fund, every year, council through the budget process will identify a certain amount of money they want to set aside for economic development. And those dollars we will typically use if we're trying to, let's say, recruit or attract a company or help them expand locally, whatever the case may be. And so each project that comes in, it's a case-by-case basis, it's an analysis, and then we determine, as Melanie described earlier, return on investment. If we invest $1, how many extra dollars are we going to get back in return from that investment?
Okay, now I understand it. That's
The
excellent.
one thing I'd like to, the time went too quickly, but the one thing I would like to take from this meeting with you is the idea that maybe we could do more as the media. Maybe we could help you and therefore help ourselves more just by getting the word out about the different opportunities that are out there, especially for businesses. Maybe even some of the recreational ideas that we've talked about today. And of course, thinking outside of the downtown area and recognizing other areas of the whole city. There's so many places in the city where somebody has set up shop, and we do seem to focus on a couple of spots, the downtown area, the State Road 200 area, I guess we'll call that, and now I guess the city line ends at the interstate, right?
No.
No, it doesn't.
West.
Okay.
It goes west to the airport.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Because so that little area called Market Street, is that Ocala still?
That's in the city limits.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I thought the interstate was the line. Well, thank you for coming in. It's been an enjoyable visit. And is there a website we can let the listeners know about that maybe they don't already know?
They can go to ocalafl.org. That's the city's website.
All right. And is there a suggestion box on the website, something like that?
There is a way that you can contact the city manager.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then when you get all of the suggestions in there through the city manager's office, are those suggestions given to both of you so you can...
They are routed to the appropriate department so that the person who needs to be answering the question is informed.
Well, that's wonderful. We love communication because
didn't
you
ask-
have to have communication.
Is it possible in like 10 seconds or half a minute? The land next to Embark or whatever that used to, what is it called now? CenturyLink?
Downtown. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? What's going there?
The city owns. It's essentially a 2-block area. The city owns that property, including the 4-story building that used to be Sprint. It's
Okay.
a vacant building now.
Okay.
Right now, the city has an agreement with a local developer to convert that into condominiums, and they're in a due diligence period. They're exploring that, and
I
if, at the end of that period, if they feel that it's financially viable, they'll move forward. If not, then they'll abandon the project, and we'll still have the building. We have not given them any incentive. They just have this 6-month look.
I got you.
Oh, okay.
I got you. So we'll see some changes. If I moved away and I came back, I would say, wow, look at all these changes, right?
I guarantee that.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for coming in. We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
Well, the new year is upon us, and that means getting to those forgotten projects that you promised you would. So whether you're tackling a small honey-do list or building the Taj Mahal, Sunbelt Rentals will help you get the job done right with the right tools. From carpet cleaners to excavators, Sunbelt Rentals has what you need. So what are you waiting for?